What is up, guys? It is JJushins back with another video, and today, as you can see, we are doing a Lethal Company tier list. Now, this tier list is just purely based on my thoughts of how I've played each map and what I think of them and how they would scale early game, mid game, and late game, and how they would do based on three categories. Now, these three categories are loot, danger, and access. Loot being how much loot can spawn in there, the value of the loot, and then danger being the monsters that spawn there and the max amount that can spawn there. The last one is access. Now, let's say on experimentation here, the fire exit and the main entrance are right next to each other, right? So you can just access them pretty easily. But on something like Dine, they're all the way across the map from each other. So they're pretty hard to access unless you specifically want to go to the fire exit on one run, because going between them is hard to do if you're playing solo, that is. Now, the first thing on the tier list here, we have experimentation. Now, experimentation, let's just go through a quick rundown. You spawn right here. You can come out of the ship. The drill for the loot spawns right here. It's very easy to access if you order something. Now, off the start, there are two ladders you can climb up. One to the main exit, one to the fire exit, or you can just use this one to get to both. Now, the fire exit and the main entrance are right next to each other. So if you counted an enemy at the main entrance, don't want to go back in, you can quickly wrap around to the fire exit. It'll take you about 10 to 20 seconds. Pretty easy to do. And it won't be that time costly, so you can just get to them quickly. It's pretty fast. Now, access on this, I would rate this a 8 out of 10 because of how easy it is to access both of these. It's just this kind of slows you down a little bit, but it's easy to access both of these. Now, for loot, there's on this map there can be a max of 12 loot that can spawn and a minimum of 8 that can spawn. Now, it can't spawn that many great things, so just purely off of that, I would give it a 4 out of 10 on the loot scale. And then for danger, there is only like bunker spiders and snare fleas, maybe the occasional spore dog and hoarding bug that can spawn. They're easy to deal with as long as you know to look on walls and ceilings for the snare flea and the spider. They're simple to deal with. And then I would give that a 6 out of 10 on the danger scale. Now, this for early game, you pretty much want to use this map for early game. It's one of the best tier 1 maps. And then for mid game, which is around the 200 to 500 quotas, this would be alright to go to. It's just not that great. And then for late game, you almost never want to come here. So for early game and mid game, it's pretty good. But for late game, you don't want to come here. You're gonna stick to the tier 3s for late game. So based purely on that, I would give this a C because it's good for early game. Just getting into the later stages of the game, it's not that great. Now, our next map is Assurance. Now, if we go ahead and take a look here at the map, the fire exit and the main entrance are pretty far from each other, but you do have this ladder here to get up to the fire entrance. You can walk along here. It still doesn't have that great of access because they're across the map from each other. So in single player, it's kind of hard to check both because you're gonna leave loot at the main entrance, but then if you try to go through the fire exit, you're gonna leave some loot at both, and then transporting it is gonna be hard because it's gonna get late, and then like eyeless dogs can spawn, so it's not that great. So on the access, I would give this a 4 out of 10 because it's not that easy to access. You have to do this jump, then jump onto the pipes, and then go over to here and get to the fire exit. And then you have to run through all of this, which you can get hit by an earthworm or an eyeless dog. It's just not that easy to access. And on the loot scale, a minimum of 13 can spawn and a max of 17 can spawn. So it's alright for a good quantity of loot, but once again, it can't spawn that good of loot. So I would give it a 6 out of 10 on the loot scale. And then Finally, the danger scale. It is a D on the danger scale. It has a max power level of 6 inside and a max power level of 8 outside. Outside, you mostly want to watch out for eyeless dogs and earthworms. They're most common on here. And then inside, once again, it's bunker spiders and snare fleas. They're easy to deal with, just I would make sure to watch out for them. So that's why I would give this a 5 out of 10 on the danger scale. It's a bit easier to deal with than experimentation because a bit less can spawn. So based on that, I would give assurance. It's kind of in between a C and a D tier. Normally you don't want to go to this over experimentation because eyeless dogs spawn more frequently in assurance, but once again it has more loot in it, so it really depends on where you want to put it. Me personally, I would put it in D tier because there's usually no reason to go to assurance over experimentation. So yeah, that's why I would give it a D. So the next map we are going to be covering is Vow. It is the last of the tier 1 maps. It has the bridge that can fall over and stuff. The bridge it has some very in-depth mechanics, so I don't know if I want to go over it right now. I will link a video in the description of going over just all of the bridge mechanics in Vow and how it works, but I'm not going to be covering that in this video. So automatically once you start the ship, it's going to land right here. To your left is the dropship for the loot. If you keep going down here, you can make it to this bridge, and then you can jump down to the fire exit down here if you need if you need to go to the fire exit. Now for the fire exit, you can take this path. There's a path right here to get up onto here to save some time from going around. But other than that, the access for this one, it's alright. I'll give it a 5 out of 10 because they're right next to each other. You can just jump down and then easily get to the fire exit. No big problem with that. So it's a 5 out of 10. Now for the loot, it can spawn a minimum of 10 and a maximum of 13. So just a little greater than experimentation. And it can spawn a bit better loot, but just not that great of loot to warrant using it that much. So I'm going to give it a 5 out of 10 on the loot scale. And for this map, you can have 7. The max power level is 7 inside. The max power level is 6 outside. Now this is our first map where forest giants can spawn. They're the huge monsters that can grab you and eat you insta-kill. You can't kill them, you can stun them, but this early in the game you're not going to have the materials to actually stun them because you need a flash grenade, a zap gun. Those materials are more mid to late game, so you're not going to have them going into Vow. So that's why I would rate it on the danger scale of 5 out of 10. Because it's not that great, but it's not that bad either. So on the tier list, I would put this in C because of how easy it is to access the fire exit and the main entrance. Now for me, I would pick experimentation over both of these because the danger is pretty low, but it's not that hard to deal with the things in experimentation. But forest giants early game are hard to deal with if you do not have any knowledge of them. Now our next map, which is the start of the tier 2 maps, it is offense. Now offense, if you check it out right here at the ship front right here, immediately, okay, well, it's, yeah, whatever, you understand. Once you come out of the ship, immediately right here is the dropship for loot. It's easy to access right next to the ship. Makes getting loot inside the ship pretty easy. Now, like this map states, when you're loading in or when you're landing in, sorry for that, you can jump onto this and then make it to the fire exit pretty easy, and then extension ladder, which it's mid game, which you're more likely to have an extension ladder still, but still most teams do not carry extension ladders. Sorry, I keep choking on that word. yeah, most teams don't really carry extension ladders mid game, but you can still have it. It'll still work pretty well. But when you also the main entrance, it's really easy to get to. There's even a shortcut to drop loot from right here. You can drop loot off right here. And then you can just transport them like that, and then it's right next to the ship to just carry it. And it's pretty easy to do. But I will give this a 5 out of 10 on the access scale because of how far the fire exit is from the main entrance and how hard it is to access it because of the extension ladder. But next we have the loot. Now, the loot on this map, you can have a minimum of 14 and a maximum of 18, so a little above assurance. And so you're gonna find way better loot than you would in tier 1 because of it being a tier 2. You're gonna find way better loot. So I give it a 7 out of 10 on the loot scale. Lastly, we have the danger scale. Now inside we have the usual spiders, snare fleas, and coil heads. I'm pretty sure coil heads have the highest chance to spawn on this map. Correct me if I'm wrong on that. But yeah. So inside, it's hard to deal with the amount of the amount of creatures inside, and so outside, there can spawn eyeless dogs, earthworms. I've died to a couple of them on this map, but just based on because of the eyeless dogs and all the other stuff inside, I would give this a 5 out of 10 on the danger scale. Now, since it is a tier 2 map and it does spawn some pretty great loot, and if you know how to deal with the creatures, then it's easy to deal with. So I would give this a B on the scale. Next tier 2 map, we have March. Now, March is known for its 3 fire exits that are close to the ship and easy to access. But the problem with this is there are 4 sinkholes that spawn no matter what, even if it's raining. So it doesn't matter if it's raining or not, the sinkholes will still be there, which is a danger to a lot of people because they don't know how to deal with the sinkholes. But if you know how to deal with the sinkholes and you know where they are, as you can see, they're right next to the ship, right over here, and right over here, and right over here. If you know how to deal with them and you know where they are, pretty easy to deal with. But for newer players on this map, they're gonna sink in the sinkholes pretty easily. So the access, I would give this a 7 out of 10 because of the 3 fire exits, making it extremely easy to get between every single piece of loot that's in there, which you'll find pretty often. And the main entrance is not that far from the ship. Easy trek. So yeah, that's the 7 out of 10 on the access scale. Now for the loot, it can spawn a maximum of 17 and a minimum of 13. And it can spawn a little bit of the same loot as offense, just a little worse. So that's why I would give it a 6 out of 10 on the loot scale, because it can spawn it spawns less than offense, and it has a little worse loot. And now on the danger scale, inside it can spawn a maximum of 14. It has a maximum power level of 14, and then outside it has a maximum power level of 12. Now on this map, forest giants are pretty common, and eyeless dogs can also spawn this map, same with earthworms. A lot of outside creatures are here. And then inside there can be brackens, coil heads, a lot of things inside. So that's why I give it a 5 out of 10 on the danger scale. It's just a little it's basically the same as offense. It can spawn a little different amount of things, but it's still a good choice if offense isn't if offense is like stormy or flooded. Although I wouldn't take this over offense. I would say March is top of C tier. It would have gotten in B tier if it wasn't for the forest giants and the eyeless dogs being so common on this map. It would definitely be bottom of B tier. Next up on the map list, we have Rend. This is the start of the tier 3 maps and the snowy maps. where no beehives can spawn, nothing like that can spawn, because it's snowy, obviously. Now, from the start, you can see all these lights going to the main entrance. They're easy to follow. You shouldn't get lost. But my only problem with this map is the fact that the fire exit, it's so far off the main course, you don't even want to go to the fire exit. It's useless to even get to the fire exit because how long it takes to get there and how separated it is from the main entrance and it's so dark in there. You almost never want to go to the fire entrance on this map. So that's why I give the access on this map a 6 out of 10, because it's easy to get to the main exit. You just don't want to go to the fire exit. And then next up we have the loot scale. There is minimum of 18 that can spawn in there and a maximum of 26 loot items. So based on that, it can spawn like a lot of good things. Yeah, it's pretty good. So that's why I gave it a 7, or no, an 8 out of 10 on the loot scale. And then lastly, we have the danger scale. Now, the danger is S tier on this map. So side note before the video continues, I forgot to talk about the danger levels and the amount that can spawn and stuff like that. So I'm sorry about that. But the max indoor power is 10 and the max outdoor power is 6. Okay. And then the indoor entities, the Nutcracker and the Jester, have the highest spawning chance, but you still gotta watch out for like brackens and bunker spiders. And then for outdoor entities, the Eyeless Dog and Forest Keeper are the most common, so yeah, watch out for those. Sorry about that. Continue the video now, me. Danger is A tier, so I would give it a 6 out of 10, because it's almost always going to be a mansion. Now in mansions, mansions are pretty easy to traverse. They're easy to find. It's like mansions are so much easier than facility levels, and I don't find myself running to a bunch of monsters in mansion levels. So that's why I'm going to give this a bottom B tier. It's good if you have the funds for it. It can give you a lot of items. If I had the money, I would always go to Titan because it's just better. Next up, we have Dine. Now, Dine is similar to Rent in the fact that the fire exit is far from the main entrance, but the redeeming quality with this map is that it's closer to the ship, so that you can make it to the ship easier. Make it to and from the fire exit to the ship easier. And if you want to go to the main entrance, then just follow these lights. It'll get you there. It's pretty simple, not that hard. And so that's why I would give it a 7 out of 10 on the access scale, because of how far they are away from each other, but how close it is to the ship. Next up, we have the loot scale. Now, it can spawn a minimum of 20 and a maximum of 28 loot items. And it can spawn a lot of great things. It can spawn higher value things. You're going to find mostly paintings or items above 50 credits you're going to find on this map, because of the loot being pretty good and easy to get. And this map is a mansion level. Most of the time has around a 2% chance of being a facility level. So on the danger scale, this is an S tier danger map. It can spawn eyeless dogs, earthworms, and then inside it can spawn coilheads, brackens, jesters. It can spawn a multitude of things. Jesus. And it has a inside power level of 15 and an outside power level of 6. So that's why I would give it a 6 out of 10 on the danger scale. So I will be putting this in A tier because of how easy it is to get to the main entrance and the fire exit. Now the last map, the tier 3 map that most people think of when they think of this game, Titan. It is one of the smallest outdoor maps in the game, probably the smallest, because it's just climbing up to these stairs, and that's all you're ever going to do on this map. You never want to go to these because how close they are next to each other. Dropship really close to the map, or to the ship, and then from the ship, if you just hop out here, you can run up these stairs, get to the main entrance, and then right next to the main entrance is a fire exit. So they're really easy to access. It's just stairs. So that's why on the access scale, I give it a 10 out of 10 because of how easy it is to access. Now, the loot scale, it can spawn a minimum of 23 and a maximum of 38 items inside. Now, it can spawn gold bars, paintings, a lot of things. And they're all high value, probably above 60 credits is what you're going to find on this map. So that's why I would give it a 9 out of 10 on the loot scale. Now next, we have danger. Now this has a roughly 20% chance of being a mansion. I think a 23.6% chance of being a mansion. So yeah, take that into account. And then inside, it has maximum power level of 18, and then outside is a maximum power level of 7. Now on this map, eyeless dogs and forest giants are going to be super common, so you should always be wary of eyeless dogs because of how small the map is. The eyeless dogs are going to be wandering around here, around your ship, and they can also climb up these stairs and get up there, so I would watch out for that. So that's why I would give it a 7 out of 10 on the danger scale, because of how dangerous it is. So that's why I would give this an S tier, because of how good the loot is and how easy it is to get into the facility. So I hope you guys enjoyed this tier list. It took me a couple hours of researching because of how in depth this game actually goes. It has so much different things that go into it. So yeah, it took me a couple hours to research. I hope you guys enjoy. Catch you guys in the next one. See ya.